Hey, what if your problem isn't your message, but it's where you're saying it? Hey, stay with me today because by the end of this episode, you're going to clearly understand why some businesses struggle for leads, while others seem to attract them with ease. And I'll tell you the single principle that decides the difference. And before we do that, let me tell you about Psalm Tree CEO Mastery. This is a community that I am building where I'm bringing Christian CEOs together to where we can all come together and learn from each other, as well as the content that I'm going to be putting on there to help learn and guide. And we're all going to be coming together in this theme, how we want to glorify God with our businesses. And a place to learn how to be a CEO, sharing my experience from the past. We'll talk about how you can do that when we get to the end of the episode. So, as we start today, I want to start with speaking to you as one business owner. You're a Christian business owner. Chances are you've asked this question to yourself, maybe at night by yourself when nobody's around. Why is it so hard to get consistent leads? You work hard, you try to do things the right way, you honor God, and yet the phone is not ringing like it should. And the Bible tells us in Proverbs 13, verse 23, that much food is in the fallow ground of the poor, but it is swept away through injustice. Sometimes the field is ready, the seed is good, the method is wrong. Today, we're going to talk about lead generation, and starting with something that most business owners never think deeply about, and that is choosing the right channels to communicate your message, to find those leads that are appropriate for your business. Are you just doing what everybody else is doing? That may not be the right thing to do. I think it's interesting how it just seems obvious what we're going to be doing, and how, like we're going to take ads out on Facebook, or some social media channel. We're going to do social media. We're going to start social media channels and start going out there. Well, how do you know that that's where your customer is listening for you or looking for you? But I want to give you a foundation here. God is a God of order. The scripture tells us plainly in 1 Corinthians 14, verse 40, let all things be done decently and in order. God doesn't work randomly. He works intentionally. And when he calls you to steward a business, he expects order, wisdom, and discernment in how you do things. Lead generation is not manipulation, okay? It's communication. And communication requires a path. You need a channel. It's what we call a channel. What channel are you going to use to communicate with? So let me ask you that question. What is a lead generation channel? Well, a lead generation channel is how your message travels to your prospective customer or client. It's the road your promise walks on. And according to the E-Myth, where I learned more about this, in that framework, lead generation channels are methods, media, or vehicles that are used to communicate your business message to your target market. So in simple terms, the message is what you say. The channel is how and where you say it. I know this is something we usually will try to figure out what our message is right away. But really, one of the things that we need to do is to figure out where our customer is. where are they congregating? Where are they going to look for the answers to the challenges that they have and to the things that they want? Where are they going to find those? That's where we need to be. And that indicates the channel where we need to be communicating with them. So we need to find those channels. We have to ask ourselves, where are they going to look for answers to the issues that we are solving? Here's a truth that many Christian business owners miss. A good message in the wrong channel is still a bad lead generation strategy. The channel is more important than you think. Jesus himself understood channels. He spoke differently to crowds, to disciples, to religious leaders, to individuals. He spoke the same truth through different channels. And in Matthew 13, Jesus taught in parables, not because the truth was unclear, but because the audience required it. That principle applies directly to business. So this is a common mistake that many business owners make. And I'll let me just say this gently, warn you about mistakes that I've seen. Mistake number one, everyone does it this way. This is a mistake that I made. You copy what your competitors do instead of understanding your customers. Like I was saying, everybody goes to Facebook. Everybody puts ads on Facebook, right? Because everybody's, it's like a big marketing channel. But it's a mistake because you're just doing what everybody else is doing. How are you going to stand out from the crowd? And mistake number two is that it was easy. You choose what takes the least effort, and it's not necessarily the best fit. You take what seems like the obvious route and the easiest route. These are big mistakes. You can spend a lot of money on advertising and not get any leads. And you work on the message, you work on the media, and you really try to make it happen. And, study the numbers, because there's all kinds of analyticals you can do now to see how your ads are responding, and then see what does best, and then double down on that, and then keep refining and keep refining. And what happens is you're refining, but you may not necessarily be getting the results that you could be getting if you were in the right channel. You're going to try to find these needles in a haystack in where your message is going out, and you're not getting the kind of results that you really should be getting. Which leads me to the third mistake here. You're doing trial and error. You're going out, you're putting ads out there, and you get terrible results from it. But you study the analytics and you blame the marketing when it fails. So you guess at your marketing, and then you blame it when it doesn't work. When all the time, you're probably in the wrong channel. And you might also say, if you're already in business, you say, well, I've always done it this way. And that's when tradition replaces wisdom. You have to ask yourself, is this really where my target market is looking for solutions that I'm offering? Scripture warns us in Proverbs 14, verse 12, there is a way that seems right to man, but in the end, it is the way of death. So, 3 biblical tests of a channel. And this is also a framework that the E-Myth gives us, but it aligns really well with biblical wisdom. 1 is reach. Can it be seen? You can't serve people who never hear you. And Jesus said in Matthew 5, verse 14, A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. If your channel does not regularly reach your target customer, it's not stewardship. You're just wasting your money and your time, your resources. The second is attraction. Is it welcome? Do people want to listen to this, to your message on this channel? They must want to listen here. So in Proverbs 18, verse 21, Scripture reminds us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. But before the words are heard, the messenger must be trusted. Some channels repel instead of attract. There are some people that just do not trust the internet, no matter how credible the message seems that's coming on the internet. So it may not be a good channel for you, even though it might seem like the most obvious, maybe especially in social media. There are people that are repelled by social media and they don't go there. Maybe your best customers are going somewhere else. Just the fact that it's advertising can destroy the trust. No matter how clever the message is, they're going to be singing in the back of their mind, I can't trust this. This is an ad. So the messenger needs to be trusted. What channel are you delivering this in? Is it a trusted channel? Some channels, like I said, repel your customer, but some will attract your customer. It depends on who your customer is. You need to know who that is. So the problem is not the truth, it's the timing, the tone, and the place. Here's another one. Cost. Is it wise? God's not impressed by how much you spend. Just because you spend more doesn't mean you're going to get better results. Jesus asked in Luke 14, verse 28, which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost? The best channel is not the cheapest, it's the most effective. Types of lead generation channels. Let's get a clear overview about what channels might be, and there are some broad categories here. And I know what used to be 10, 20 years ago, newspapers and magazines, broadcast radio, and TV. What's replaced those today? Those are potential channels. And even though it may not be appropriate for everybody, the internet is replacing broadcast media. We're now doing broadcasting on the internet. So there may be parts of the internet, there may be platforms on the internet that are trusted because maybe they've proven themselves, and they're maybe more difficult for people who are fly by night to use. And so they're not used as much, and so people trust them more. They don't see as many of these fly by night type businesses on this channel, and so they can relax a little bit and trust it a little better. And some of these may overcome the channel trust by having the right kind of content. Podcasting is becoming a big thing now, like I'm doing here. And you have a chance to actually get to know me and who I am before you buy anything. And you can decide whether you trust me or not. This is a new way of interacting, where we're not just seeing, we have to decide whether or not we trust the product based on a 60-second ad. We can do more research. So these channels like print and broadcast media, they're changing, and they change with the technology. Direct response, things like doing cold calling. Cold calling has been a staple for lead generation for many, many years, and people still rely on it. But you have to ask yourself, is that channel actually going to produce the results for the effort that you're putting in? Is it still going to do that? Email. Email lists. Email lists have always proven to be very effective. If you can collect someone's email and then you send them messages, there's still enough results there that it's worth it for some people to use that channel. That's the same thing with cold calling, is a direct response as well. So email and phone are both channels that can be used for finding cold leads. Doing events and promotions. Events is also a big possibility. Does your customer go to events to look for solutions to the problems that they have? They want to go out and maybe watch a seminar. They want to go out and watch somebody speak. They want to see a presentation. That can be done online, can be done in person. So events and promotions is a potential channel. Public relations work. Now, public relations has kind of been, I don't know, maybe not as front and center as it used to be, because with the broadcast media and with print media, a lot of PR work was done through those channels. Well, is that done now through the internet replacements for these print and broadcast media? Possibly. And possibly things like podcasts and YouTube videos may replace public relations, because it's something that you're not selling that media on that media, but you're providing information, you're establishing a relationship, you're building a relationship. And in today's world, trust has been decimated, and people don't trust things as easily as they used to. So we need to spend more time building a potential relationship with our potential customers. And this is all something that needs to be considered as you are doing lead generation. Word of mouth, referrals is another big way of getting customers. And once you've established yourself and you have a reputation, and you make sure that your clients, your customers are really happy with what you deliver, then they can start telling others and they can start referring them to you. And that's another way to generate leads. That's not something you do right out from the start, but as you build your business, you can start relying on that more. It takes time for that to begin to happen. So each one of these has strengths. Each one has weaknesses, and none of them work for everybody. So you have to be creative. You have to think about, what are the potential channels that I have available to me? We talked about some, but there may be others. With the technology that we have, and as fast moving as it is today, there are new channels emerging all the time and new ways to use these channels. So think about that. You got to think about your customer. What's in their mind? Where are they going? Where are they listening for a message that you are delivering? Where is that? The fit between this channel and your potential customer, it's important. It's very important. And the fit for this matters more than the popularity of that channel. The channel has got to fit the customer, not your comfort, what you feel most comfortable with. There's a lot of subjective criteria that your potential customer is going to have in their mind. You've got to consider that. You've got to think about the credibility of that channel, the intimacy of that channel, and the impact of that channel. It's got to fit with your customer. In biblical terms, this is what's called discernment. In Hebrews 5, verse 14, it talks about this discernment, who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice. So it's talking about you. Have your powers of discernment. And you know what? Having a biblical foundation to your entire business concept is going to help you with that discernment about where you're going to go to communicate your message. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you why faithful businesses still fail at lead generation and what God expects instead. So don't miss that. Stay here. I also want to mention that stewardship, this is about stewardship, not salesmanship. Christian business owners often do struggle with this. It's difficult because, a lot of times we've been so heavily influenced by the secular business world and what they do, and what some of the things that they're doing seem to work so well, and we copy those things. And we begin to think that marketing is a worldly activity, that promoting yourself is prideful, and that when you get engaged in the selling process, that you've got to manipulate people to get them to buy. These are all terrible, terrible lies. But Scripture says in Colossians 4, verses 5 and 6, walk in wisdom towards outsiders. Let your speech always be gracious. Lead generation is wisdom toward outsiders. It's not shouting. It's not pressure. It's clarity placed in the right place. And so this is why God ordered lead generation. God honors planning. He honors systemizing all of this. He honors faithful execution of this. So I want to emphasize that you want planning before implementation. You need to know what you're going to do. A principle that's echoed here in Proverbs 16, verse 3. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. God does not bless chaos. He blesses faithful order. So let me answer the opening question that we had. So what if your problem isn't your message? That's the question I asked. What if the problem isn't your message? Well, here's the answer. Your business does not lack leads. It lacks alignment. You need the right message with the right channel. The right message, wrong channel. When alignment is restored, the flow of leads will follow. So if this is opening your eyes, I want to invite you right now to join Psalm Tree CEO Mastery. It's a community that's built to help Christian business owners think clearly, to lead wisely, and to build a business that lasts based on a solid foundation. This is where we go deeper into what we're only introducing today. Okay, so friend, God has called you to steward more than a business. He's called you to steward your influence. And influence always travels through a channel of communication. And if you're ready to grow with clarity, with structure, and with biblical wisdom, I invite you to join my Psalm Tree CEO Mastery on School Community, where we're going to help you build a business that serves people, honors God, and stands the test of time. You can find this at www.psalmtreeceomastery.com. That's Psalm Tree is spelled PSALMTREE. PsalmTreeceomastery.com. So until next time, lead with wisdom, walk with faith, and build with purpose.